Good morning. Good morning. I am Reverend Claudette Snorton, and I am the pastor of Hopkinsville Chapel Christian Methodist Episcopal Church here in Louisville. Just a little background about myself. I've been a pastor at Hopkinsville Chapel for 8 months. I've been in the ministry for 17 years. 15 of those years, I've been a rural pastor. I've been a member of the Black Church Studies Advisory Board for 3 years. I'm a 2018 graduate of the Seminary with a Master's in Divinity. I am also a retired educator. I spent 34 years in the education field. I am the mother of 2 wonderful young adults, my daughter Dominique and my son William. I have a wonderful son-in-law, a Bremer, who is from Gambia. I thought you might be interested in that. And the best thing I have is my 3-year-old grandson, Jordan.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
My name is Marcia Watkins. I serve as the pastor of Phillips Chapel, CME Church in Sturgis, Kentucky. I'm the daughter of the late Moselle B. Williams and Emma Jean Christian Williams. And I'm the granddaughter of the late Jonah Christian and Mary Christian. The reason I tell you this is because my parents and grandparents were landowners. And from ill-fated decisions, we no longer own that land. But I digress. I have a strong and loving husband in Andrew Watkins, and I have 2 loving sons in Clifford Thomas Phillips Jr. and Marcus Phillips. It is my great honor and privilege to be before you this morning as a part of the research team that visited Lane Tabernacle CME Church in Hopkinsville, Kentucky. When I learned that I was going to be a part of the research team and not be just their guide, I was a little perplexed. But during those 4 days, I learned so much about the God that I serve, and through the members and the community and their perspective. I have been a member of Lane Tabernacle since 2009. And in September of this year, the church will have their 128th anniversary. Lane Tabernacle Church is a generational church. One family at Lane is blessed to have 5 generations present on their Sunday morning service when their matriarch is able to make a visit. That one family they are the descendants of one of the original people that organized the church. The congregation holds to their traditions and their celebrations. The church supports the community, and the community supports the church. Our thoughts were to present our findings on this historic church, and its impact on the community, and the community's impact on the church. However, there was a life-changing event in the community where this rural Black church stands that changed our plans. That event was the abrupt closure of Ebonite International Corporation. The sudden closure was felt by the whole Christian County community, and for that reason, we will be using our remaining time to share with you what we have uncovered about this life-changing event and the community that was affected by it.
And when you're listening to the person and not paying attention to the slides, something gets left out. All right. As we were saying, we are going to be talking about the permanent closure of the Ebonite plant. But before we talk about the Ebonite plant, I thought it was pretty important for you to get a little bit of history, a little bit of background about where the plant is. This is a map, and the map shows Christian County. Christian County is in the southwest region of Kentucky. Christian County was founded in 1797. Christian County has a total land area of 724 miles. Christian County is the second largest county in Kentucky. Christian County has the largest land mass of any county in Kentucky. According to the 2018-2019 data, the population in Christian County was 75,258. Christian County has the second largest African American population in Kentucky. Yeah. Agriculture, industry, and the military make up the trifecta of the economic engine of Christian County. There are 49 manufacturing businesses in southwestern Kentucky. There are 15 international companies in Christian County. The average salary for factory workers and employees in Christian County is $48,000 a year. And that's what's on this slide. Next, we'll move on to Hopkinsville. And here's some quick facts about Hopkinsville. Hopkinsville was founded in 1804. Hopkinsville is the county seat of Christian County. According to 2017 data, the population of Hopkinsville was 31,577. And that is a reduction of 550 persons since the 2010 census. And there was a big controversy during the time of the census that talked about the fact that a lot of people in Hopkinsville were not counted. So this is truly not an accurate count, but it is the count that they have. Let's go to our next slide. That's still another map showing kind of the street view of Hopkinsville. Now, the racial makeup of the persons in Hopkinsville, there are 63% Caucasians, 30.42% African Americans, 8% Hispanic, and Asians are 2%. And the median income in Hopkinsville is $43,629. Now, the slide before that talked about the median income of factory workers in Christian County, and that median income is $48,000. So that's pretty important when you start thinking about the money in your house. For $4,000, that would buy quite a few groceries probably.
Hopkinsville is the 6th largest city in Kentucky. And as of Monday, February 17, 2020, I'm excited to share with you that Hopkinsville has received its first African American mayor. All right.
The mayor of Hopkinsville resigned and took another job, and Mr. Lynch was appointed as the mayor, and he will remain the mayor until November when the special election takes place. And I'm pretty sure he's running, so
he's there now.
All right. The picture that you're looking at now says the closing of Ebonite International Corporation. And if you look at it, there's not much going on out there. It's just a closed up building. All you need to do is see a few tumbleweeds roll by.
Ebonite International was a parent company that oversaw the manufacturing of bowling balls and bowling equipment. The company was founded in 1907. Ebonite opened its corporate offices and factory in Hopkinsville in 1967. According to the 2018-2019 data, Ebonite made 650,000 bowling balls each year. Ebonite was acquired by the Brunswick Corporation on November 15, 2019, and according to the Ebonite website, Brunswick secured all the assets of the company, including all of its brands, trademarks, and technologies, and moved the company's production to one of their manufacturing facilities in Mexico.
And that's really important, not just the factory itself, but everything. Nothing can be used that had the specific Ebonite brand, Ebonite logo, because they own it all, and it's all in Mexico, which is a bit frightening. This says the closing of Ebonite International Corporation. What happened? At the bottom of the page, this is a quote that I found on Facebook, and I thought it was really important. I love my job, and I love the company that I work for. I gave my all to Ebonite for 13 years, and on November 15th, my whole world changed. When, at the end of my shift, they told us they were closing the doors and moving production to Mexico. In general, I have nothing bad at all to say about my time spent at Ebonite. The way we were treated on that day was so disrespectful, especially to the employees that literally spent half their lives making that place the home of the world's best bowling balls. Now, I found that quote on Ebonite's Facebook page. There was a longer, more graphic quote from someone, and obviously they saw that I'd been looking for things to quote or looking for things, and they removed it. So I just happened to swipe this one up really quick. Now, our next slide. Because of our close personal ties with the community, we were able to sit down with two gentlemen that worked for Ebonite.
One of the workers we interviewed was a 68-year-old forklift operator, and he had worked for Ebonite for 47 years. He was not the longest employee worker there. He shared with us that there was one person that had worked for the company for 50+ years. The second gentleman had worked at Ebonite for 13 years, and he's 35 years old. He was also the vice president of the employees union. He told us that there are 172 persons who were employed by Ebonite, and he was able to share with us about the racial makeup of the company.
Okay. When we asked about that, he said that 80% of the workers at Ebonite were African American. 80%.
Wow.
Yeah, that is a big wow.
We were surprised about that.
Yes. Both workers stated that Ebonite gave them a severance package that included paychecks and insurance until January of 2020. As we reached out to others that we knew or that could tell us some more information about Ebonite and what had happened, we heard the same exact story that we heard from those two gentlemen. There was no true explanation given for the plant moving to Mexico. Without warning, the community was forced to deal with the harsh realities of plant closures. I have a friend that works for the newspaper, and I reached out to her, and I said, well, I know you know something about that inside stuff. And she said, no, nothing, no, nobody knew anything, not the city council, not the workers, nobody. And I found that very, very odd. Somebody knew something, but it's pretty hush-hush. Nobody's sharing anything. And
so Claudette, once Brunswick bought Ebonite, the shutdown was almost immediate. That day.
There was that. Some people got to work and were escorted out.
Wow.
That one person that we read about, at least they finished their shift. But, because they have at least a couple of shifts, but no, nothing.
Both gentlemen spoke about how they enjoyed working for Evernight. Neither had anything negative to say about the company prior to the date of closing. But the closing changed their lives. They repeated that statement continuously through the interview. When we asked about their future plans, the gentleman that had worked there for 47 years said he had decided to file for his Social Security retirement benefits. And he made the statement, now that Ebonite is closed, I don't have anything to do. But please keep in mind that we interviewed them just 1 month after the closure. And I'm pretty sure that he's moved on and is doing very well.
How do you know that?
Close personal friend. That's me at my wedding. He's on his motorcycle.
Can you make that claim for other laid-off workers?
No, I cannot.
Okay.
I saw quite a few people in my job that were they looked shell-shocked. They really did. I saw them within days of the closure, and they looked shell-shocked. And I haven't seen any that I recall since then. But the younger worker has chosen to go back to school and take advantage of his educational opportunities during this time of unemployment. Some of the companies located in Hopkinsville in the industrial park held job fairs to assist the displaced workers. All of the displaced workers were offered additional job training and education opportunities through the Kentucky Education and Workforce Development Cabinet. This assistance is offered to all displaced workers in Kentucky.
And that's a very important statement. Yes, they were given the opportunity to have job training or to receive some type of work training, but that's what all the people in Kentucky get. There was no special anything to set up to help them. Most of the time,
people in particular.
most of the time when a company closes, there's an extended period of time that people know about it. So you have time enough to start to plan, time enough to start thinking about it, but this happened in one day. The Hopkinsville community, particularly the African American community of Hopkinsville, is no stranger to hardships and struggles. Brother Taylor talked about the fact that if something bad was going to happen in a community, it usually happens in the African American community. Churches in the local African American community individually reached out to their own members affected by the closing of Ebonite International Corporation. And most of that reaching out was, we're going to pray for you. Presently, there are at least 200 churches in the Hopkinsville Christian County area. At least 55 of the churches are identified as predominantly African American. Now, of these churches that we identified, none of them did any special activities, had a barbecue for them or a dinner, nothing. It's just like, okay, it happened.
What about white church?
Doesn't that? No church. Not to our knowledge, and we have dug and asked and searched and nothing. Nothing. And to me, that's a bit frightening.
Why?
Why? Why is that a bit frightening? Well, if the church is the one place you're supposed to go to for help or assistance or solace when times are hard, and nothing is happening. I mean, prayer is good. I'm a pastor. I want somebody to pray for me, and I want to pray for somebody. But prayer's not going to put chicken on my table. My kids are accustomed to lights and water, and prayer doesn't give me lights and water.
What should have been the collective response of the church?
I really think that if the churches had come together and say, let's benefit something, there should have been something done other than nothing. Just like anything else, when at the very moment when something is going on, it's a hot topic. But after a few weeks, nothing. And like I said, I have a friend who works for the newspaper, and she says nothing's been mentioned about it in her work at all. Out of sight, out of mind.
Remember, this impacted 172 people in that small community.
And their families. So it's really much larger than 172. And so when we were there, I remember the clergy organized around some other kind of disaster, maybe 9/11. I remember they talked about that. But this is a disaster too. But I don't think they saw this as a disaster, like 9/11 was a visual disaster. But they didn't see this as a disaster.
The shooting in South Carolina.
The shooting in South Carolina, right.
But that was something that affected church.
Got it.
That's the difference.
Got it.
This is individual. According to the presentation earlier by Dr. Gerald Taylor, the impact of plant closings on rural economy includes depression, bankruptcy, suicides, alcoholism, physical abuse, exodus of the population, lost businesses, and the ripple effects that cause systematic disruptions to everyday life. But just think about it. If the factory closed, down the street was a neighborhood grocery store that the factory persons went every day to get their lunch. Now the factory is closed. Half or more of their business is gone. So that affects that grocery store, which also means that affects that family, the services that were provided to that grocery store, the people who brought the milk, who brought it. So it's a ripple effect. It affects.
And other people that shop there.
Yes.
Not just everybody, people, other people who use that grocery.
Because it's in a little bit of a remote area, but they're not too remote, where people could drive to and get what they needed and move on. Only time will tell if any or all of these hardships or consequences may occur due to this shutdown. Since this is still relatively new, we don't know what's going to happen. But we know, let's hope, nothing, but probably something. To this date, to our knowledge, we have found no evidence that any group outside of the Hopkinsville Industrial Park ever organized in a collective attempt to assist these persons by the closure of Ebonite. This lack of effort not only included the churches, like I said, included white churches, black churches, pink churches, blue churches, everybody. Okay. Now, I did speak to a friend of mine last night, and I was asking her just some other questions because I was trying to make sure that I knew exactly what we were dealing with. And she said that the only controversy that the people of Ebonite had with the city of Hopkinsville was 10 years ago. They asked for 8 parking spaces downtown. They were going to move their offices to downtown Hopkinsville, which is kind of a ghost town most of the time. And the city would not give them those 8 parking spaces. But other than that, they never had any issues with them. As late as the 8th of November, they sponsored some type of bowling event.
That's the city.
The Ebonites helped to sponsor some type of bowling event. That's what, 7 days before the closure. Okay, these are some stark realities. Rarely is there a united effort by the Hopkinsville Christian County African American churches or the African American community at large during times of struggles. This lack of self-care in this community is a perfect example of what Dr. Taylor describes as the community's need for dependency on the public sector. Because if you lose your job, you're going to have to get some money from somewhere else. Many of these workers have limited higher education, very few jobs outside of the factories in Hopkinsville, Christian County area will provide the displaced workers with a salary of $48,000 a year. This reduction of incomes will place a higher dependency on Social Security income, veterans benefits, and the use of public assistance. This factory closing was a very big detriment to the community, to the 172 people, and it's going to have a ripple effect. We don't know what it is, but I would like to know this time next year what happens. To go back and see, to interview some other folks to see what actually happened afterwards.
Do you know if any of the executives moved to Mexico to work for Brunswick?
No, I don't know that, but I can ask.
What happened to them? Did they also?
Well, there were some people in Hopkinsville that did have ownership of that factory. And I know they got money, and so I don't think they moved. But some of the executives that worked with them maybe possibly, but I don't know that for sure.
Cool.
Keep in mind it's 80% African American. I don't think any of the other factories in Hopkinsville have that type of percentage.
No. And this is a factory, one of the very first factories in Hopkinsville that would hire African Americans. It may not sound like, wow, 171 people, oh, that's not so terrible. Well, when you start thinking about that small amount of people that live in Hopkinsville, that's a big yes.
You said the average income of the employee at the factory was $48,000 a year.
Mm-hmm.
When you do the math, 172 times 48 is $8.3 million in a community. That's been taken away from a community. It's a real big deal. And that's what impacts the churches in that community because they're not working, they're depressed, they're not attending. They're not attending, they're not giving. And that's the key, that's the root. If you run the root, you'll see the impact in Hopkinsville. Because 172 people not working in the community, a big 8,000 people, is a big deal. Because that's $8 million in our community, the American community that's just been taken out and shipped down to Mexico, as far as we know.
And the pride of having an African American mayor, he is now given a lower tax base for services to the area. So often we are proud of ascending to those types of positions, but it's often under the most dire conditions. So the opportunity to succeed has already been affected because he has less resources, yet there is greater demand. And so not only should the church be looking to help the individuals, but we need to move up a few thousand feet and look from a higher level at not what's going to happen down here, but also strategically. He has a terrible, terrible crisis on his hands that is going to affect even the people who did not lose their jobs. And they are going to expect him to be a miracle worker, which then, when he doesn't deliver, we turn on him. And so I just want us to get ahead of our own attitudes and expectations, so that when things don't come out the way we want them to, and everybody lives happily ever after, that we don't turn on one another.
All right. Yes.
My question is, and I know this would be probably conjecture on your part, or you may have answered from your research that you did. Why do you believe churches didn't respond?
They didn't know how. I don't think they didn't know how.
Or they may even be afraid. Let's just be point blank.
Afraid of what?
When you start doing specific things that focus on one group, I think there's some fear there. You came with us when we did our field research, and the very thing that we talked about so much during that time was there is no true power for the African Americans in Christian County. They don't stand up, or they don't take charge when things are going on. They just kind of are docile. Yes, ma'am.
Have you all looked at like the mental health implications of what happened, or how people? Because I was thinking about you, the person who's Louisville, right? I don't know personally, but I also know that sometimes we have internal struggles that are not often present. So when you lose that big, such a huge part of your identity, there's a huge grief and loss process that comes. And so if that many people are grieving in such a concentrated area, I was wondering if you thought about or looked at the implications.
You didn't look at it formally, but that's something we should explore.
I'm sorry, but I retired from the Office of Employment and Training, and I worked with groups. I actually led the trade association program for when companies closed and people lost their jobs because of foreign trade. This is not and would not qualify for the program that I ran. However, the Office of Employment and Training is what I did. And I was there at the height of the recession. So when the lines were wrapped around the building down at 6th and Cedar, I was in there hiding. But I was in there. So the grief issue, that happens to be my forte, the grief issue is really overwhelming for African Americans. The Caucasian population doesn't have nearly the stigma associated with seeking mental health. The church believes in prayer.
Well, that's where we get our hope.
Yeah, but when you break your arm, you don't just pray about it. You go to the doctor. And so when you are emotionally broken, you need to go and get emotional help. And the church often denies help to their congregations because we want to rely on prayer and wonder why folks fall away, don't come, don't attend, and aren't just doing better.
You had a question?
Yes, I'm still stuck on this observation that you made about none of the churches having offered some kind of collective event. I think I remember also a comment on the PowerPoint about churches having responded to their individual members in some way. Is that correct? That perhaps they were asked to stand up in church service and tell their story. We worked there until today before yesterday, something like that. Is that true that it worked like that?
Yes.
Okay, I can understand that. Now I would like to ask a further question. Is there any kind of coalition among the churches in Hopkinsville? Is there some organization that they belong to that could have called upon churches belonging to that organization to act on behalf of those people?
There is a ministerial coalition. However, every church is not involved. It is very separated as far as denominations, as far as women and men, and it's going there would be putting a very tiny Band-Aid on a gaping hole. Very tiny.
With no power.
No.
No organized power. I mean, it looks like it's organized, but it's not. It doesn't. It probably does Thanksgiving baskets, Christmas, something like that.
Not as a group, it doesn't.
As a group, it doesn't even do that. So it's really a name only.
And they meet and have lunch once a month.
Okay.
Right.
Yes.
But for churches to act in concert, it seems it would need an organization that helps them to communicate with each
I
other.
agree. 100%.
I'd like to go back to the mental health piece that was brought up by a young lady here. I'm a psychotherapist and a doctor in ministry. I received my doctorate degree in pastoral counseling here from the seminary. And I want to go back to what you were saying in regard to the church's response to denial. I don't believe it's denial. I believe it's their lack of knowledge. When we look at our history, first you have to look at this history of mental health. When we go back to the beginning of the history of mental health, what was being examined, people of color were not viewed. That was not the discussion. It wasn't until later we came into discussion and talked about what was happening and who we are as people of color, first and foremost. When you talk about the churches at that time were identifying who we are in relationship and being a part of our small community and being with each other, which is still, when you look at mental health, of course, a very significant component of this. However, the churches, when people were talking about going to someone for mental health, you were identified as having a demon in your life.
Right.
Or if you went to a mental health professional, they were individuals who did not understand your claims. It happens today. This is 2020, and I cannot tell you this. I can tell you story upon story of men and women of color who have met with people who are not who they are, or look like them, or have even an inkling of what they're experiencing, to be able to speak with them. Not only do they have that lack of knowledge, they have a lack of humanity, compassion. And all they tend to have is a book knowledge and a sense of wanting to move up the ranks to become a program director, an administrator, so on and so forth, and make money, and then go on the lecture circuit and write books about people of color. Now, I'll get off my soapbox. I had to say that. It's so much.
Yes, sir.
In the Christian County situation, you also have to look at, first of all, the name does not depict the name of the county does not depict their religious beliefs or outlooks. And it's one of the most racist counties in the state of Kentucky. And so all of that plays a part into how people react to each other or where people speak up. And I know that during the 70s, when there was racial tensions in the state, and in particular in the Hopkinsville area, there were black attorneys from Louisville that traveled to Hopkinsville to speak up for people because folks did not speak up for themselves. And the climate there is oppressive. And so even though African Americans rise to a certain level of whatever, they are still oppressed and cause them not to come together because of slave mentalities. And so all of those things have a great effect on why we didn't come together and support as churches, why we don't come together and support, because there's somebody watching us that if we come together, then they will oppress us even more.
But don't you find that in Kentucky, period?
Everywhere in Kentucky.
Yes, in Kentucky, period.
And probably least in Louisville area, but it's present here as well.
Yes. I pastored in several small towns, and oppression is real.
Yeah, I just wanted to make a comment also, too, as far as churches and black churches not being able to respond, also is a lack of resources. And we've seen for the last couple of years that many black churches, especially smaller black churches, are struggling to keep lights on. So let alone be able to offer resources to employees that have lost their jobs. And I think it just goes to the bigger conversation of the wealth gap, because a lot of the black churches do not have resources where other white churches may have endowments and other funds. I mean, it just goes to looking at broader resources that sometimes it's not there. And even once you start doing for certain ones, you're not able to do for the majority. So it goes back to resources, and why are we not, black churches, white churches, those with wealth, those with savings, those with endowments are not, there's a need, and it's not a secret about the need. So why are we not working and tapping into those resources? So I think it goes back to a broader conversation of wealth and black wealth here in America.
Well said.
Also, in that same vein, Dr. Taylor said earlier, he said, we have enough. Did you not say that in your presentation? And when we collectively come together, 5 black churches have as much as any one white church.
Yes.
And the other part of that issue is that I don't want Mr. Taylor to be the head of it. I don't want to be the head of it. I don't want Dr. Gray to lead the effort, since that was my idea.
That's right.
Though he has the expertise. But the issue really for us is our coming together to help each other. And because we have enough. We have enough to make a difference if we come together.
A question about legal assistance for displaced workers. Were any of the displaced workers or displaced workers as a whole offered legal assistance on unpaid wages, pension issues, benefits that were not awarded after the closure?
Not that we know of.
There was a severance package that took them through the first of the year.
So essentially a 2-month severance, well, really a 6-week severance.
Yeah, the union that represented them was it was one of the, I guess, one of the few unionized plants in the area.
Yes.
The workers that were represented by Workers United, which is a union that represented them. So they had a local there, and that local, and then the national, the regional office helped negotiate the severance package. Remember, this was overnight.
Yeah.
And so they had to move in quickly to try to even negotiate a severance package for people as they left. So that was the only reason that was done was because they had a union. They were able to negotiate that and had relations with the other parts of the companies.
So without a union,
Without a union,
no
they had
severance.
nothing. Yeah, so the union made it possible for them to negotiate even that severance package.
There are no, she's asking me a question. As far as unemployment and those kinds of things, the Office of Employment and Training has no say over a business operation. The Office of Employment and Training is there to provide the services that are required. The unemployment benefits that employers pay and are required to pay, that's maybe 1/10, and then the federal government provides the most of it. But it's really about reemployment. So it's not about benefits, it's not about pensions, it's not about any of those things. Office of Employment and Training is about reemployment and the 6-month period of a subsidy to help you bridge the gap. So benefits are 6 months maxed out. They were extended during the recession, but 6 months maxed out, and it's only a percentage of your income. The maximum when I retired was $430 a week. So if you made $48,000 a year, your maximum benefit is going to be $14,000 over the 6-month period. And after that 6-month period, I kept tissues in my office for the people who came in, crying about what am I going to do? I can't find a job. I have a 9th grade education. I cannot pass the GED test. It used to be free, now you have to pay for it. So I can't even afford the $40 or whatever it is to pay to take the GED that I can't pass, which means I can't get into any training program because I don't have a high school or a GED. So, what am I going to do? So, I go to the bar, I beat my wife, kick the cat, kill, I take all types of drastic measures in order to self-medicate, which goes back to. So, the Office of Employment and Training has nothing to do with benefits, the kind of severance and that kind of thing. And I am going to kind of pick on the church. I used to be Baptist, now they resigning, so I know a little bit about both of them. The church, a lot of people don't want you to know that they need you.
That's true. There's shame.
The church shames people. The church, I'm saying it because I know it. Because I keep tissues in my office, I used to, of people crying about, I can't go to the church and ask. Because if I do, they're going to talk about me. All right? I'm just saying that's where we live. And so a lot of people wouldn't even claim their unemployment benefits because they didn't want to be seen going into the unemployment office. Because when we see it, we talk about it, we tell it. And maybe you didn't know I was unemployed, because it really ain't your business. But when I see you going in the unemployment office, girl, guess who I saw going into the unemployment? Did you know it? And so I'm just saying what I'm saying, and whatever that is.
Okay, this is our last question.
Okay, I'm gonna bring in the train here.
All right.
I'm from Springfield, Tennessee. I moved here in 1980. I grew up during a time when situations like this happened, the churches, they would pull together and they would help families that were in the need, regardless of tradition, religion. There were needs that needed to be met. There were benefits that were benefit programs that were pulled together. And believe me, the people that did it, they weren't rich. But by the time they did what they had to do, they had a whole lot to distribute to whatever the cause was. I'm sitting here listening at all of this being said and done. Faith without works is dead. Prayer is good, but if you sit and do nothing, you won't get anything. But I truly believe that if enough churches would come together, I don't know how many churches are in Hopkinsville.
Like I said, about 200.
200.
And at least 55 of them have been specifically identified as African American churches.
And you mean to tell me that all those churches cannot come together as one and be creative to do something to establish a plan to help these families? Because it's been 3 months.
This gentleman just said they don't want whoever they is, brother such and such to be in charge, or sister such and such to be in charge. So it would be a lot of clashing, but I understand what you're saying.
Well, somebody would have to bring a torch to the fire. I mean, somebody got to get it going. But at the same time, too, if you collaborate enough and not let the me, myself, and I get in the way, this is a place of hope. I mean, this is really 2020. Yes, it sounds funny that we are living in this time and we are hearing that this is actually happening. Though, but I don't believe in closing my eyes to a situation like this where there is no hope, because there is some hope and help for these families if the churches would pull together as one, black, white, whatever religion, and help build it back together to give these people some hope until they get up on their feet. Even if it means that we have to sacrifice some things.
It's time for break, ladies.
Okay.
Thank you.